Hello, what do you know about Victorian nipple piercings? Do you think the Victorians were all prudish and closeted? Victorian nipple piercings, called bosom rings, were a fad in the Victorian period for the aristocratic ladies and the upper classes. Starting in Paris in the 1890s, it was a rebellion against the stage norm, a bit like the punk era of the 1970s or the flappers of the 1920s. Historians believe that this practice goes back to the Egyptian period. And Isabella of Bavaria, King Charles VI of France's wife, late 14th, early 15th centuries, was supposed to have had a diamond ring in each nipple connected by a pearl chain. It's also written that in the late 1800s France, certain shops had little piercings for the nipples for sale, untold. Now this was all supposed to have been just for the upper social classes who could not only afford the practice, but afford the derogatory whisperings and mutterings that this would spread. It was also a belief that if you had each nipple done with a chain, it helped them to grow evenly and kept them in a constant state of excitation. It was all a rebellion for Victorian women and later the suffragettes against the body just being there for reproduction purposes and in a time when women weren't supposed to enjoy sex. Of course, the fad was eventually discouraged by medical people and the church administration as vulgar and disruptive to the role that were there for the baby. Doctors were saying it could cause a cicatrice, which was just a scar, but it was supposed to lead to cancer. Now, the magazine called the English Mechanical and World of Science dealt with anything Victorian science of chemistry, electricity, or even building your own bicycle. And it had a forum where anyone in the world could write in with their opinion, and people were saying against this practice about its safety and morality. Now, one lady called Constance wrote into this forum, and she said, "My cousin Jack had seen a letter sent in about nipple piercings, and he was very desirous that I should have them done, pierced and rings inserted." Jack turned out to be Constance's cousin, but also her fiancé. So off went Constance and her sister in 1889 to Paris for their nipple piercings. Now, nervous of the side effects and it causing cancer, they found an American lady who was trained in medicine to give them a recommendation of a surgeon. He okayed it for Constance and Millie, and so he gave them a recommendation of a woman who'd had hers done for 3 years and had 2 children since, and he sent them to Madame Beaumont. They visited her in her salon in Rue de Rivoli, where she actually did nails, hair dyeing and corn doctoring. She showed them her own nipple piercings and those of her daughters. She also showed them the clamps she'd invented specifically for doing this. They were a bit like sugar tongs, but not spoons on the end. They had hollow tubes on the end in which the piercer can go straight through and do a straight line of piercing. Constance then says she admits, "I must confess I felt qualmish and almost repented having consented." And this is now word for word from Constance's letter. "I partially undressed and seated myself on a couch by the side of Madame Beaumont, where she put her arms around my shoulders to hold me steadily. She then bathed my right breast with something that smelt with something like benzoline for a few minutes, which seemed to freeze it. She then adjusted the nipple and the instrument went either side of it, screwed on securely, and almost before I was aware of her intention, she plunged the piercer through the tubes. I scarcely felt its passage through my nipple, which seemed almost insensitive. She then unscrewed the tongues, leaving the needle still through my nipple, the point of the ring being then put into the hollow in the base of the piercer. The ring was passed through the nipple and closed. The whole operation, excepting the bathing, did not, I believe, occupy a minute. I felt scarcely any pain, and only a drop or two of blood flowed, which was at once absorbed by a little styptic wool. Constance and Milly then went out happily into the streets of Paris with their padded breasts. They had been the first English ladies to visit Madame Beaumont for this procedure. Other ladies so far had been French, American, and other ladies from the continent. Jack was apparently so pleased by this, he went and had his own done. Hope you've enjoyed another little historical fashion tale. If you have, do join me again next time. Until then, bye.